Hi everyone, it's Sarah here. Today I am back working in the brand new February 2019 Studio Calico Traveler's Notebook, and I am going to be working with the new stamp subscription here. It is travel themed for this month, which I love. I love a good adventure, and even though we don't go on as many trips as we used to, I still love a good adventure, and I know this stamp set is going to get a lot of use. So I'm going to be using it today to document a recent trip that we took to Las Vegas. We basically just went for the afternoon to eat some good food and walk around. We were checking out the Bellagio with their indoor installation. They always have something new up. I think they switch it out every few months, if not more frequently. So they had something that was displaying the Chinese New Year, and it was so gorgeous. If you ever have a chance to check it out, definitely stop by the Bellagio. And then you have the fountains out front, which we didn't time it right so we could watch the fountains go, but that is also really fun to do there. So I have a few photos here. I didn't take a lot of photos just because we've gone to Vegas so many times. I already have a ton of photos, but I wanted something to be able to record this in my notebook. So I took a few snapshots, and I have this one of the cityscape, which I decided to stamp this tag on top of just to kind of act as a border. And when I did that, it was definitely an imperfect impression. You can see the top there is kind of blotchy where the ink should be. So at this point, I wasn't really sure if I was going to reprint that photo or just kind of go with it. And I decided to try to fix it by filling in that area with a black pen. And it's still not perfect, but I think once I start adding other elements onto the page and stamping out other things, it kind of distracts from that imperfection, and I don't think that it's super noticeable with the final product. So I decided to go ahead and leave it, not worth reprinting the photo, and we are just going to go with it. So I'm going to pull out different stamps kind of one by one. I thought about doing a pattern background with a bunch of the little illustrations, but I feel like I've done that a lot lately, and I just wanted to go with something a little bit different. So I'm going to kind of build this page from the top to the bottom and try to balance it out as I'm going along. And you'll see what I mean as I start to kind of put this together, but I'm adding things to the top and the bottom and just trying to kind of balance it out that way. So if you're ever struggling with balance on your page, definitely kind of consider this as a process method to just do to one side what you're doing to the other. Use that visual triangle. It's a great way to kind of start the process with your page, and then you can kind of build off of that, if that makes sense. So I have my trio of photos there, and I felt like having them so far apart from each other made it look like they were kind of floating. So I'm going to kind of tighten that up a bit and pull them together, and they are actually going to overlap in a second. And then I'm going to slowly add in stamps around the photos. The colors that I'm going for here, I started out with just a gray and a green that played off of the green polka dots on the left-hand side. Those are the colors that I decided to start with, and then I will slowly add in other colors like that light blue, which I thought worked really well with the green. And then I will also be adding in little pops of red, because you can see from the photos that I have there, there was quite a bit of red going on. There was that Chinese New Year's display in that top photo, and then I was also wearing a red jacket. So two of my photos had a lot of red in them. So I'm going to want to tie that in to the left-hand side and bring in a few elements. And thankfully there were some red pieces that were in this month's Traveler's Notebook kit, so that worked really well. I'm going to go ahead and stamp out "Let's Go." Always looking for ways to use as many stamps from a stamp set as possible when I first get it. I love to kind of play around with all the different bits and pieces. So a pattern background is a really fun way to go to do that. Or you can just kind of add in stamps like I'm doing here very slowly and try to get as many on the page as possible. And I think by adding in colors one by one, it takes away that chance of looking a little bit too busy, because if you add in too many colors all at once and you have so much going on, it can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes on the page. So just adding in those colors one by one can definitely help to eliminate that busyness. So I'm going to use the left-hand side for my journaling. I went ahead and stamped out that giant explore sentiment. That would make a great sentiment for a 3x4 card if you're documenting a trip in your Project Life album. That would just make a perfect filler card. And then I went ahead and added an arrow, and I am going to handwrite my journaling. I've decided I want to try to handwrite a lot more journaling this year. One of my goals, which might be kind of weird for this year, is to improve my handwriting. I actually used to really like my handwriting, and it's kind of slowly gone downhill. And I just want to try to get back to spending more time writing out my journaling and trying to enjoy it a little bit more on my pages, because I think that it really does add that special personal touch. And I think it's something that I'm really going to like seeing in the future. So I'm going to try to do that more, but it's definitely going to be a toss-up on projects, because writing out your journaling definitely takes up more space than typing it out. So with a long story, I'm probably going to have to still type it. But for these shorter, quick stories, I can get away with kind of handwriting it out. So that's what I will do here. Wanted to add in a few more details on the right hand side, so I just took my pen and added in a few details, like filling in those arrows and adding some dotted marks around some of the illustrations, and it just adds a little bit more black and detail to that side. So I went ahead and wrote out my journaling before drawing in my lines, which is always a risk, because I'm left-handed and my writing always comes out a little bit slanted usually when I don't use lines. But I think because of that polka dot, it ended up being okay. It wasn't perfect, but that's totally fine. That's the great thing about these traveler's notebooks, is imperfections can sometimes look fun and on purpose. So can usually get away with things like that. So I ended up putting down a sticker there and then trying to stamp over it, and that just didn't work. The ink would not, even with the StazOn ink, it wouldn't stamp onto that sticker, because that sticker is kind of like a washi tape texture, so it's just super slippery, and that did not work. So I'm going to try to cover that up a little bit by stamping the globe illustration on top of it. And again, not perfect, but it distracts enough from that little speck there that I don't think you would actually notice that when flipping through. And that is going to complete this page. I hope that you enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. As always, I will have all the links to everything I'm using here down below, so you can click on over and shop any of the things that you see here. Have a great day. I will see you in my next video.